Hello, sports world, and welcome to The First Line, a show where we discuss all things sports, both professional and collegiate. My name is Massimo Marchiano, and here with me today are my good friends Michael Zingroni and Taylor Snyder. How are we doing today, gentlemen?
We were doing great, Mass. It is a gorgeous day outside, and it's a gorgeous day to be a sports fan. We got a lot going on. Luckily, we picked the best topics for you. We break it down. I know my man Mike has something to say, too.
Oh, yeah. You said weather, but I love the weather.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm going to keep going.
very
I love
much
the
like
weather.
the
I love
weather.
sports, and we're doing it all in one day.
Yeah, the weather's
man.
great. We got
70
weather,
plus,
we got
I'm not
sports.
complaining. Yeah, man.
It's April. There's no football, basketball, college just ended, but you know what? Hey, for some reason we're still happy. But you know what? Let's start it
Always happy.
with madness. That's how everything starts. March Madness started this week. Guys, it's over. Snap. Kind of just came out of nowhere. I don't know what happened, but it ended. I think some team called like UNC won, North Carolina. But otherwise, let's start off what you guys thought about March Madness. What were some thoughts on the Final Four? You guys start over like Taylor. What about you?
Overall, I thought this March Madness was a little bit, underwhelming compared to years past. There weren't too many big upsets. I guess I was a little bit disappointed with the lack of first-round upsets to connect the point. We left off on the show at the Sweet 16. We talked a lot about who we thought would get in. If you asked me back on that show, would South Carolina and Oregon be in the Final Four, I would have thought lunacy.
No.
I would have thought absolutely not. You got to give it up to South Carolina. That's one team I really want to focus on right now.
Yeah, really shout out South Carolina.
We have to
They
talk about this
deserve it,
program
man.
because just this year, honestly, in the SEC was huge, and South Carolina was kind of that embodiment. We look at this team this year and we see what they accomplished. Sindarius Thornwell, PJ Joser, Chris Silva, all laid it on the line. And really, if you look at that game, specifically the Final Four, South Carolina actually did outplay Gonzaga at very many moments in that game, and it was just kind of an outweigh of talent. You looked at Gonzaga, you got to get it up to them too. They were just kind of the talented team at the end of the game. Williams-Goss, Kornowski at the end of the game. It's hard to take that away from Gonzaga, but you got to think about South Carolina's defense, their resiliency, the way they kept it close for so long. The result didn't shock me. You kind of had to think it would be the 1-1 in that final. But honestly, if I thought one game where an upset would have occurred, it would have been this game. But you got to give it to Gonzaga. Hey, they made the national championship. That brings me to my next point about Gonzaga. I guess my whole thoughts on the game last night. I mean, there's a lot to say, and I know my partner here, Mike's going to have a couple things to say too.
More than a couple.
But I'll say this. The whole UNC situation with Oregon, you got to have UNC winning that game just because they were the better team at the end of the day. I saw that coming. UNC winning this game, I saw that coming too. Now, before my man Mike here just takes the mic, no pun intended, by the way. When I look at this game last night and basically the final result, I look at a game that was mostly dominated by Gonzaga at a lot of different points. But the problem was it was talent. Talent outweighed the execution. The execution was there, but 2 minutes in the national championship is very important. Like they say, man, anything can happen in 2 minutes. That's not really what they say, but you know what I mean. And the thing is, it's like, if you look at that game, that's how you lose a basketball game in the final minute. When your best player gets banged up, he tries to force a couple of shots. We saw Williams-Goss try to force a layup at the end, a shot when he had 13, 14 seconds left on the shot clock. And then they make a couple of bad, poor, very sloppy passes.
Weird decisions.
And that's how UNC wins. And, I mean, that pretty much just sums up right there, Mike. I don't know what you have to say, but I think UNC wins based off that right there.
It's crazy to think how last year North Carolina played better in the Final Four, in my opinion.
Yeah.
If you look at this game against Gonzaga and even going back to Oregon, against Oregon, yes, they won by one. But you can just watch that game and you can just tell it was like UNC is not playing their best right now, and they still found a way to win because I think a long way of the whole redemption thing of not winning a national championship last year, they're like, there's no way in hell we're losing.
Yeah.
So I feel like that really helped them. When all the chips were down, they still have that thing on their shoulders like, hey, we got to get back because, listen, we can't lose to a team like Oregon in the Final Four. Then the same thing happening against Gonzaga. Gonzaga, for the most part, I think mainly in the first half, too, for majority of the first half, they were controlling the pace. I was seeing UNC sprinting up and down the floor, sprinting up the floor, trying to shoot, and that's their game, but I feel like they're trying to do too much, and Gonzaga gets the ball, they'll take 5 seconds, dribble up, take their time, take a couple of breaths, run a play, 5 seconds left on the shot clock, get a nice little elbow jumper, and 2 points right there. Gonzaga was very calm this game, and I think they had to play a calm game to beat North Carolina. I think they had to beat them in the rebound advantage. They did, but you can't turn over the ball 14 times. I mean, UNC did not play their game. They only shot 35%, but Gonzaga only shot 34%. So it was a really defensive dominated game, and if it came down to that, I'm thinking Gonzaga's going to win, but they just turned the ball over way too much, and specifically in the last 8 minutes. And hey, guess what? It's a national championship game. You can't turn over the ball in the last 8 minutes.
Yeah, and I mean, besides the turnovers, one thing that a lot of people have been talking about on to the added, effects that UNC had in that second half of the game. One thing that I really took away, and I think one thing I'm not going to forget, listen, I'm a big firm believer and don't blame refs. But that second half of that basketball game last night turned my head. And it turned my head for a lot of reasons. It's the national championship game. We have the two best teams. I presume that's what this is, right? The two best teams.
Yes.
Hypothetically in the nation.
The two best teams in the nation.
Fighting for a national championship for their schools. Both these schools bleed. They are everything. They would sell their firstborn child to get a ticket to this game. They are bleeding their colors. They watch them all season. They support. And you're calling how many plus fouls? 30 plus fouls on the national
44
championship?
to be specific.
44 fouls. And one very big one was missed at the end. You call all these touch fouls. By the way, I don't even know what a foul is anymore. But she missed the most important one at the end of the game in the last 30 seconds that gave UNC possession. It was a jump ball call. It was clearly a hand out of bounds. Now, I read the rule book. I reiterate my point here. He was out, if I'm not mistaken. He has possession touch of the ball with his left hand, placed on the line, which is out. Therefore,
over the line.
It would be Gonzaga possession.
Over the line.
Gonzaga possession, and then you got to think here. Listen, there is time still in this game, and it is still a 2-point ball game. You can Gonzaga that ball. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, and look at that. I know you can't blame the refs. There's nothing you can do about that now. But, man, you really want to blame the refs. So, I mean, they just didn't just whistle. Like, I'm tired of that. Like, that sort of just ruined it. But, like, that's beyond the point right here. But, that really did take a big part of the game. But what I really look for is the star battle. And I love seeing the star battles in the championship game. And I think Joel Berry just played a really good game. He shot 7 for 19, but I felt like he was always in control of his play. He knew what he was doing, and he was playing a nice, physical, efficient game. And he really helped out on the defensive end, too, when the team needed to step out defensively, because they know Gonzaga is going to play just as good defense on the other end, too. So I like the way Joel Berry, he stepped up. He showed real good leadership, and he was in the right place at the right time. I just like his energy, and he was always there, and he really helped North Carolina, with that experience, and really helped them win.
Well, speaking of certain players that really stood out to you guys, that's what I was actually want to move on to next. We know certain times coming forward. What certain players or teams did you guys really think kind of stood out, and next year you just know they're going to make a sudden impact right away, or just they just speak colors to you?
Well, it's definitely hard to tell now. Obviously, this is the time of year where we get the declarations for the draft, so obviously we're going to have to see in the near future. One thing I did like a lot was from Gonzaga's side, you have to look at basically like the standout guy for me is definitely Nigel Williams-Gossen. I've mentioned this name how many times this show, and I mention it so much for a reason. This man is the reason that Gonzaga was in this game, in my opinion. He's a junior. I expect him to join the NBA draft, but if he comes back, this is definitely a standout guy. I think if we're talking about two standout guys, and hey, I talked about this kid 3 weeks ago, and I talked about him, and it's finally all coming around. Joel Berry III is my standout. Nigel Williams-Gossen. I know that seems very obvious, but it's my two picks. Joel Berry III was the most outstanding player of the Final Four, and very deserved so. Unbelievable athlete, can get to the perimeter, seemed like almost outshot the entire Gonzaga team at a solo pace in the second half of that ball game last night. And I see this kid translating very well to the NBA. He's got very good size. Pass the ball well, he's a good assister, and he can get to the net. And in the NBA, I mean, hey, it's not even like they're playing that tough of defense anyway. If you're fast, you can get to the net, and you're big and physical, you can find your place in the NBA. But I think if he does come back, this kid's going to leave such a huge impact on North Carolina, as well as Justin Jackson, who's unfortunately it's hard to say, but both these teams probably will most likely have a new look. But for the time being, with these kids returning until they declare for the draft, I see both these teams right back in the situation, the circumstance that they are currently in this year. North Carolina is a powerful basketball team. Roy Williams is still the head coach, so I think at the end of the day, both these teams have standout guys, but they're both going to be back in the same spot.
Oh, my biggest standout for me is Sedarius Thornwell, South Carolina. I don't know if you mentioned him or not, but this man's a baller. And, I mean, South Carolina, as a 7 seed, they did not have a NCAA tournament win under their belt previous to this tournament, and he just came in and he really just took that team. He averaged 21.4 points over the season.
I'm just
he had 7 rebounds.
Perplexed by that name, Sedarius Thornwell.
Hey, it's a great name.
That is a great name. I think this is the first time on the first line we've just seen a name just so crazy.
I'm sorry, please continue.
He's talented. Yeah, but I mean, just look at this: 29 points against Marquette, 24 against Duke, 24 against Baylor, 26 against Florida. I mean, this kid, he really played hard for his team. You saw how much they wanted to win this game. And he really played hard. He came up in the regular season, 21 points, 7 rebounds, 3 assists, and he brought South Carolina to a 7 seed in position to win their first ever tournament game, and he brought them all the way to the Final Four. I think if South Carolina makes the national championship, even if they don't win, I think he should have got most outstanding player. If they made the championship, were able to beat Gonzaga, which they weren't, but hey, they only lost by 4, and mainly because of him. I mean, he was a real baller, and his physicality, his energy, has really just made South Carolina kind of a likable team. Like if you put South Carolina on a football field, I'm not too happy, but he made me like their basketball program, and he really played fine. And he's a big physical senior guard, and hey, that's what senior guards are supposed to do for you. They're supposed to ball out in their senior year and give you runs in a tournament, and that's what he did. And another name I want to point out is Dylan Brooks out of Oregon, and another Final Four team. With Oregon dealing with injuries coming into March Madness, he came in. He scored when he had to. He played defense when he had to. He did what he had to do to help his team win. And I think Oregon was a very good team. They're one of my favorite teams coming into the tournament watching them. I really like how they played. They made a Final Four run. And I really think it's just everybody sticking together. They played their good team, and everybody played their role. And I think Dylan Brooks did his role and a lot more to help the Ducks get to the Final Four. So those are my 2 favorite players to watch this whole Final Four.
And with that, we're going to have to wait till the next season of March Madness to continue more discussion on that. But let's move on to what we've all been waiting for, ladies and gentlemen. Path to the draft. NFC East this week. Mike, we've been waiting for this for a long time. We've been so excited for it to talk about our team. It's been coming, the Philadelphia Eagles. Now, let's be fair. We're going to critique them a little bit. The Eagles got to do some things.
We'll critique them a lot. Don't worry.
But throughout the offseason, they've made some pretty smart offensive plans, filling the holes, signing Alshon Jeffrey, Torrey Smith, you got guard Chance Warmack, among others. They actually just traded for defensive tackle from the Ravens today. What's his name? It's kind of slipping off my mind right now.
Timmy Jerrigan.
There we go. So, Mike, why don't we start off with you? What is this Eagles offensive plan as well as the draft plan they need to execute this coming month?
Well, their offensive plan, for me, it's coming along good. I think it's coming along as expected. It's coming along as needed. Because you obviously saw last year the wide receivers that they just sucked. Just say it like that. The wide receivers really sucked last year, and they had to enforce it. And I think getting Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith, not only, I mean, they're on short-term deals. They're basically both on one-year deals because Torrey Smith has zero money guaranteed after this year. So pretty much they can just release him, no cap hit. So they're pretty much on both one-year deals. So they can draft a young receiver. They don't have to, reach for maybe a John Ross or hope Corey Davis and Mike Williams fall to us, to play that playing game. No, we can just get someone in the 3rd round now. We have those on 1 year's deals, and at least one of them's going to work. And if one of them don't work, the Eagles are not going to be good. If one of them doesn't work, if you sign 2 of the better wide receiver free agents and they don't pan out, that means your team's just not destined for success. And it's all bearing on Carson Wentz, how he develops, how he grows as a man. And I think he can grow as a man pretty good, and I think he can become a pretty good quarterback. So I think their offensive plan is coming into shape. And with draft plan, they really don't have to go offense. I think if you're going anything on offense, maybe get a depth tackle if you need it, get a running back, and third receiver in there. But the rest, defense. You have 8 other picks. Get defense. Defense, because that secondary is bad.
Taylor, what about you? Do you have any suggestions for the Philadelphia Eagles this year?
When I look at one thing that the Philadelphia Eagles very much need right now, I look at the defensive end position. You just signed Chris Long. Chris Long is not what Chris Long used to be, but he's a veteran. He's dicey. You saw what he did in New England last year. He was on that 1-year deal. He played actually pretty well on a Patriots team that made it to the Super Bowl. I think a guy that I look at that complements him very well at this position is defensive end Derek Barnett out of Tennessee. It just makes sense to me. Right now, the Eagles, like you said, Mike, they are not in desperate need of a wide receiver. Yes, you can draft a wide receiver or a versatile running back. They have shown a lot of interest in Christian McCaffrey quite recently, possibly trading.
That's an interesting pick.
Now, here's the thing, though. If you're in the Eagles front office, you got to be patient. I know it's very tempting. You can get Christian McCaffrey. You can even get Alvin Kamara out of Tennessee, a slot wide receiver back. But right now, you need to focus on the main priority. You need defense in Philadelphia because you did just sign Alshon Jeffrey and Torrey Smith. And like you said, Mike, yes, Alshon Jeffrey's only on that 1-year deal, and Torrey Smith might as well be on a 1-year deal. Might as well say it. So you're losing those 2 guys probably at the end of this season. So you got to think right now, if you're the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to build up this season, and I think you start on defense. With what you got on offense right now, you're panned for success, but you need pass rush.
Mm-hmm.
Well, if I could be honest, if I could pitch in, since it's very important to me, I think what the Eagles honestly got to do, and it's going to sound a little strange and a little unmethodical, a little unorthodox, but I think the Eagles should honestly draft offense. Just go full. Because we saw the 2014 Cowboys. It was on the 2014 Cowboys. It was Tony Romo killing it with one of the best offensive lines and DeMarco Murray at running back, which was just helping everything out. He was a tough back. The defense wasn't anything special. You had Brandon Carr and Morris Claiborne, who aren't bad corners.
They're
but
not good.
They're exactly. They're no Richard Sherman. They're no Vernon Hargreaves, something like that. But I think, honestly, the Eagles secondary right now resembles what we saw from the Cowboys secondary. Jalen Mills has proven that if he has someone good opposite side to him, someone solid.
And he's got that feisty side. I mean, you need a
Exactly.
feisty side of a cornerback. Like, I'm tired of all these soft corners. That's
Exactly.
what
And
Jalen
I
Mills
would
comes
draft
in.
a corner. I would draft if Sidney
first
Jones
round.
didn't have that injury, I would totally draft
I'm
Sidney Jones.
looking at a name like Tre'Davious White. He wore number 18 for LSU. He's a guy I like to see him. He's big, he's fast, he's physical. And hey, what have we learned with LSU cornerbacks, Taylor? I know you know a little something about LSU cornerbacks.
They're
pretty good, aren't they? Hey, and Jalen Mills is from LSU.
LSU
Get
players
that
in
chemistry
general.
in there.
Exactly. Like, they played with each other before, so hey, they're coming in. He already has a best friend in the locker room, Jalen Mills, because they're on the same team. So if they're not best friends,
Tre'Davious White is nice.
they're in the LSU secondary. Exactly. They're both nice, and it'll be like a rekindleship. I think that's where they should go with number 14. I think that'll be a nice little pick. Then I think you got to build up on defense more, because if you think about it, we have a lot of holes, or I should say, the Eagles have a lot of
That is
holes
true.
on defense because they lost Connor Barwin, they lost Benny Logan, Michael
Kendricks
Kendricks
is
is bad. Michael
might get
Kendricks is not
traded.
good anymore.
Norton Carroll.
Our
Evan
only
Mathis,
playable
Leotis McKelvin.
our only playable cornerback right now is Jalen Mills. If you think
Pretty
about
much,
it,
yeah.
pretty much if you think about it. So I think secondary and front seven are focused with a touch of offense.
Well, with that offensive and defensive talk, let's talk about
More
a
offense
team
and
that
defense.
actually need a wide receiver. Let's talk about the Redskins here. Got Kirk Cousins, who's going to stay on the Redskins for another year.
At least we
It's looking like, at least we know. We don't know
Yeah,
exactly what's going to
who
happen.
knows what Kirk Cousins
Here's
is
the
doing.
weird thing about Kirk Cousins. His starting receivers are Jamison Crowder and Josh Doxson. Now, they're both, like, potential. Okay, so Jamison Crowder, I would say, is a wide receiver,
Hey,
too.
he develops in Madden. So.
He develops in Madden. He is nice in Madden. And Josh Doxson is a first-round receiver. So, guys, do the Redskins draft a wide receiver in this draft here?
It's interesting if they should draft because they're at 17. So that's a weird spot. 17.
Yeah, it definitely
it's
is.
a really weird spot. The Eagles are always around at 17, 20 spot, and they always get weird draft picks. It's hard to hit.
It's a sloppy time.
It's hard to hit because I guarantee they want Mike Williams or Corey Davis. For receivers, I guarantee those are the top two because they don't need no more speed guys. They have Jamison Crowder and Josh Doxson, and honestly, I don't think John Ross, other than his speed, is worth a 17th overall pick. So if Mike Williams or Corey Davis falls down to them, I think they should attack right away. As soon as the clock hits on them, I don't want to see the 9-minute mark come up because if one of those two guys is there, they should take them because guess what? Your receivers suck, Washington. So I think that's definitely there. If not, I'm assuming you go defensive line because that run defense was not good. I'm looking at name Corey Brantley out of Florida maybe. You just got to hope because a lot of defensive line prospects are going up. So it's just who falls to them. It's just can they get lucky and get someone good fall to them because this draft class is deep. So they'll get someone that's worth a top 10 pick at 17. It's just will they get the right guys there? That's what I was thinking. It's just will they get the right guys? They're just in a weird spot.
Yeah, when I look at the Redskins, I definitely see the most holes in this conference by far. There's a lot, and this team just lost a lot, like you said, on offense. But I think one position that you definitely need to look at is running back right now because let's be honest, what are the Redskins doing at the running back position currently?
Who's Matt Jones, right?
Who's
Who's
Matt
Rob
Jones?
Kelly?
Who's Rob Kelly?
Rob Kelly.
In the NFC East, right now you got guys, like in Dallas, like Ezekiel Elliott. You have guys in Philadelphia that are building up. You got Darren Sproles.
First
one
round
more
pick
season.
Ryan Matthews and
Exactly.
Smalls make Darren
Hey,
Sproles.
that's besides the point. But I do look at this team right now, and I think the Redskins to draft at definitely the safety position, secondary. If you look at D'Angelo Hall, his health is always unclear. I mean, you added DJ Swearinger in the offseason. You added Soy Cravens. But, what are you doing? Is that really going to compliment you in Washington right now? Because the defense is just trash. I also look at a guy like Caleb Brantley out of Florida. I really like defensive tackles out of Florida. They have a very good history. It's the SEC. Caleb Brantley's nice.
SEC defensive pick.
He's very, very nice. He's also very, very big. The man is 300 pounds, 6'2". True Floridian, by the way. Crescent City. He's a junior. He entered the draft. Florida did play in the SEC championship this year. He did produce a lot of great numbers. He gets to the ball quick for a fella that big.
Yeah,
He really does get to the ball that quick.
That's the mantra of
And I like that a lot. And I think the Redskins, he's a good fit for Washington.
I think the Redskins just need pursue guys on our defense because
Right.
really just looking at they really weren't a fast defense, and I think that hurts them because I think their offense is good, and especially with Jay Gruden and Kirk Cousins, who's a real gunslinger.
Yeah.
I think he's not quite Drew Brees. I think you can compare it to him because he's kind of a gunslinger. He just loves throwing it down the field. That's why I think maybe John Ross, honestly, I think if anything, they should trade up in the second round and get John Ross. That might be a safer bet than take him in the
One
first
name
round.
that we always
Make
forget
a move like that.
is Corey Davis. I think I could very much see Corey Davis in a Washington
I honestly
Redskins
think
uniform.
I can definitely see him in Washington Redskins uniform. The thing is, I think he's so talented. One team by the time draft comes,
He's gonna be smart enough.
we'll realize in the top 15, hey, we should get Corey Davis because guess what? I think he's going to be very talented.
Exactly. Yeah, start defense, look offense last if you're Washington.
And for the next team we're going to talk about, the only thing we really can talk about is just completely maximizing what we got here. We got the New York Giants.
It's an arms race, gentlemen.
So, okay, we have Odell Beckham on one side, we have Brandon Marshall on another, and we have Sterling Shepard probably in the slot at this point, with Eli Manning under center and an offensive line
That can't block a
that
soul.
kind of, yeah, and the running back that can't really run because they just got rid of Rashad Jennings this year. Guys, the New York Giants, is this the last year they got? Because we know Eli Manning has potential in him if he's got receivers like this. What do you guys think?
I mean, the only thing is, that question is up there is because is this Eli Manning's last year? That's the thing. That's what really questioned me. Like, is this? I think this is the only year they have because really it's gonna be Eli Manning's last year, and they have to stock up for this year. And I think they're doing the right moves with Brandon Marshall and such. And they really like Paul Perkins, who they just drafted out of UCLA. And towards the end of the season, they're giving him a little time. They're giving him a little burn. And hey, he showed up. He gave him some quality carries, some quality time play. Better than Rashad Jennings, you can say. But Paul Perkins is pretty good. I think that offense is jacked up enough because I feel like Victor Cruz wasn't just Victor Cruz, and it was a shame. And I think if he was, they're winning that division. Because in my personal opinion, I think the Giants have the best roster in this division, and their defense is just insane. Landon Collins, Janoris Jenkins, they just re-signed JPP to a lot of money, but we don't need to get into that.
All they have to do is re-sign Jonathan Hankins, and then they might be good.
Yeah, and I mean. And you just look at this team and they're just stacked, and I feel like this is the year that it could come together because I feel like if you have Eli Manning under center, it could really work. It's just my biggest question is can Ben McAdoo control Brandon Marshall and Odell Beckham Jr. in the same locker room? I feel like could that get out of hand? That's something you got to think of. And I think that's the only.
That is going to be.
I think that's the only thing that's going to get in the Giants' way this year.
Superstar Odell Beckham having stupid fits with NFL analyst Brandon Marshall. Because Brandon Marshall's going to be like, oh, he didn't catch that ball even though he caught 68 out of 70 last year. You're like, no, Brandon, stop. Who cares about statistics? Odell's a superstar. Like, that is the problem that McAdoo's going to have to deal with is that now he doesn't have one superstar receiver. Is that he has a superstar receiver and a veteran who still thinks
And they both have attitude issues. You look at Brandon Marshall this past year. He's over here putting balls in practice because he's mad at the coach. He's over here in Miami. He's pissing off everybody. And
he's never happy.
He's never happy, but I mean, I think that's the only thing that can get in the way of them. And I just feel like the only thing they got to do is just get people who can block. Really, I feel like you just got to get people who can block.
Taylor, how do you feel about the Giants this offseason?
When I look at the Giants, I look at two guys, Ryan Ramczyk and Malik McDowell. If you think that the Giants aren't interested in Ryan Ramczyk, I've seen them, a lot of articles recently they've stirred their interest away. They actually, I think quite the opposite. They tried signing Jack Conklin and Russell Okung in the offseason. They need depth at that offensive position right now, offensive line. Eli Manning needs protection. And listen, you can't go with Malik McDowell, but like Matt said, I mean, if you re-sign Jonathan Hankins, I mean, hey, you look at it, their rotational depth includes Jay Bromley and Robert Thomas. I mean, they're two barely tested veterans, so that's why I do think that there is a huge possibility they do look at Malik McDowell. We've seen he has great rotational depth, can get to the ball quickly. He's fast. Once again, like those big guys who are fast always translate well in the NFL. Michigan State defensive tackle, I like that. Michigan State players usually are reliable, and I think the New York Giants would take a good, interesting look here because if they need what they really need is offensive depth right now because they just signed these great wide receivers. So if you're the New York Giants, I think the logical pick is you go Ryan Ramczyk out of Wisconsin. However, you're not in a much worse position if you do draft Malik McDowell. And one thing I also want to look at is the linebacker position. They did just re-sign Keenan Robinson and Mark Herzlich, but they need a little bit more. The defense is a little shaky. The wide receiver depth right now is at an all-time high. I think they're pretty good on offense. I think if they add Ryan Ramczyk and then later in the second or third round they get a linebacker, someone maybe slips up. Who knows? They're working.
They spent a lot of money on defense all season, and it really showed. They had a really good defense this year under Steve Spagnuolo.
History of historic defenses, very good defenses.
Exactly, they have good defenses, and it's really panning out.
If we're going to talk about defenses, let's just move to our last team here with the toughest, grittiest defense of all, America's team, the Dallas Cowboys. Let's look at this secondary. Nolan Carroll. And
Barry Church?
And don't forget. Oh, wait, exactly. That's right. They got rid of everyone. They got rid of the entire secondary. Guys, this draft attack for the Cowboys has to be defense. I don't care what you say. You have Des Bryant, Terrence Williams, Cole Beasley, Dak Prescott, that offensive
Jason
line.
Witten locked up for 4 years.
But what I'm saying is, it's like, guys, they've gotten rid of J.J. Wilcox, Barry Church, Brandon Carr,
Morris
and
Claiborne.
Morris Claiborne. Like, they have to draft, like, someone. They have to draft Malik Hooker or someone. They have to do something. Guys, what is the Dallas Cowboys' plan for this offseason?
A lot like the Eagles. Secondary with a mixture of front seven. I mean, it's a shame because a lot of, like, they've had a good run defense because I feel like they're
They make tackles.
They make tackles. That's the thing with Sean Lee. I feel like Sean Lee is a good linebacker to have. As much I hate as much as I hate his face, Sean Lee is a very good linebacker. I will admit he's a very good linebacker and helps that rush defense out tremendously. Because if that rush defense was bad, the Cowboys have one of the worst defenses in the NFL.
He is an unsung hero.
Yeah, exactly. He is a very unsung hero. But I mean, you're looking at this division. The Eagles just signed Alshon Jeffrey. They just signed Torrey Smith, and so the Eagles have receivers now.
Exactly.
Oh wait, you got Odell Beckham Jr. over there.
Yeah.
You're probably gonna have to face Mike Williams or Corey Davis or maybe John Ross, whoever falls to the Redskins if they draft one of them. And guess what? Nolan Carroll can't even cover Nelson Aguilar.
Yeah.
And that's their starting cornerback right now. That's the thing. Like, we've seen as Eagles fans, Nolan Carroll is not good, and the Cowboys just signed him. So that defense, it really isn't that good. Like, I mean, their offense is good, and I think Dak's gonna continue success. Zeke, I feel like there's no way he's going down. I feel like that kid's a monster. Their offensive line's still young. Doug Free just retired, so they need a right tackle, but their offensive line's still young. It's just their defense is bad.
Yeah.
So that's a definite draft.
And I could go off, and I think it would just be me building on. Like, I agree 100% secondary is the main priority, but I'm going to take it a little bit off the secondary here, and I'm going to focus on another defensive position, one that I seem to like very much on the show, the defensive end and outside linebacker position. That was a joke. Takarius McKinley out of UCLA. I really, really like this guy a lot. One, we've seen that Randy Gregory can't stay out of trouble, so that'll help a lot having a guy like that.
UCLA.
Is Jalen Smith finally coming back now?
I don't know what the deal is. It seems like Jerry Jones really just doesn't have a grasp.
Where's
right
the
now.
phones and all this?
No. Well, basically, right now, when you look at the Dallas Cowboys, Corey Davis is very talented, but like we said, you're delusional if you draft offense right now. Because
Very delusional.
You're very delusional. Well, I focus very much on Takarius McKinley. I like what he did at UCLA. He was a very productive player in the Pac-12. And honestly, like, I feel like a UCLA player is kind of what the Cowboys need right now, because if you think about it, it's tough core defense, and they need tough core defense. Jerry Jones is too soft with these defenders. They just lost all the secondary. You're not going to rebuild that secondary. You can draft all you want. You can get a guy like Marlon Humphrey, Sidney Jones. You know, I could go off like names we bring up every week on the show. You can draft, but what's the deal? You're either got to go all in on the secondary, you got to draft one or two secondary guys, and then draft one or two outside linebackers. And as we all know, Tony Romo just retired. Dak Prescott's the future. Dak Prescott's the guy. So he's got the offense and they got the productivity, but you're not winning in the NFC East without defense, especially when you got an offense like Philadelphia that's building up right now. And let's not forget about New York. Odell Beckham Jr.,
exactly.
Brandon Marshall on the same field.
I mean,
And Sterling
very
Shepard, too.
very much scares me. So if you are the Dallas Cowboys, please, for the love of God, either go linebacker or cornerback.
Yeah, I mean that's the thing. They just got to be able to defend because they can put up points and they can control the game, but teams can't score against you if you want to be a Super Bowl champion.
Well, we'll see what these teams do this offseason. The draft should be coming up this month, ladies and gentlemen. It's going to be crazy. But next week, we're going to cover Taylor's favorite team. We're going to cover the Patriots in the AFC East. Be prepared to join us next time we talk about that. Now let's move on to Minute with Me.
The jerseys are back.
UConn Huskies women's basketball team win streak ended at 111 after a 66-64 loss to the Mississippi State Bulldogs. The loss came during the semifinal rounds of the women's national championship. Mississippi State went on to face South Carolina Gamecocks in the national championship, a loss in 67-55 matchup. In other news, the Georgetown Hoyas have hired Patrick Ewing as new head coach for their Big East Conference squad. The former 17-year NBA professional will see his first action as head coach after spending 15 years as assistant coaches for teams like the Houston Rockets, Orlando Magic, and more. The Hoyas were 14-18 during the 2016-2017 season. And in final news, the Dallas Cowboys quarterback Tony Romo has officially retired from the NFL. After 14 years of playing in the NFL, Romo will now be a broadcast analyst, replacing former analyst Phil Simms. He will now commentate alongside broadcaster Jim Nantz for CBS. Romo ends his career with a 97.1 passer rating, as well as a 65.3% pass completion percentage. So, that brings us to our big topic. Guys, you know what's bullcrap? Guys, you really know what's bullcrap? Is that Tony Romo is being praised like he was one of the greatest quarterbacks of all time. let me tell you a bit about Tony Romo. Let me tell you a bit about the 4-time Pro Bowler quarterback. Only 4-time Pro Bowler quarterback. As for someone who should be considered a legend, it doesn't really matter. So I want to talk about Tony Romo for a bit. I'm not going to deny Tony Romo is a good quarterback. That this is not me saying Tony Romo is not a good quarterback, but he is not amazing. He is not an elite. He's nowhere near the ranks of Joe Montana, Peyton Manning, Brett Favre, and so among the rest. And I'll prove it to you. A lot of people like to talk about Tony Romo coming back in the fourth quarter, and let me tell you why that's complete bullcrap, is because he is actually not really that high up on the list. He has 25 fourth quarter comebacks. That's tied with Matthew Stafford, who's actually still playing in his prime and has many years left in the NFL. Drew Brees actually has 3 more, and he still has about 1 or 2 more years arguably left in the NFL. Eli Manning has, I believe, 36, which we already know Eli Manning is about to play around 1 or 2 more years in the NFL, so there's still opportunity to get more, which is proving, like, just kind of the point. Tony Romo's fourth quarter clutchness doesn't really matter. In fact, it never really mattered because, first of all, he's 2-4 in the playoffs, so those fourth quarter comebacks never really mattered when they were. Also, he's 0-0 in NFC championships. Let's talk about Philadelphia Eagles quarterback Mike Donovan McNabb. It's gonna be kind of sad, but what's Donovan McNabb's record in the NFC championship? 1-4, right?
Mm-hmm.
1-4. Okay, it sucks. It's horrible that he has to lose all those NFC championships. But hey, he won 1. Donovan McNabb played in 1 Super Bowl. You want to know why? Because Donovan McNabb was actually a good quarterback. He was actually an elite caliber quarterback that was able to manage his team to go far into the playoffs. Let's also talk about Tony Romo's consistency as a starter. So he's only had 4 seasons with 16 games started, which should show to you that, 1, his health was already a complete issue. Secondly, he's already had problems mixed in. Whenever Tony Romo gets out, the Cowboys cannot find a complete replacement. So I can't really find him being clutch when he keeps getting injured and the team that's left behind him is just complete and utter garbage. Dak Prescott has fortunately saved that curse from happening in the last season, and he actually may be the good next starter for the next decade or so, but we'll find out. If you look at Tony Romo's career, other than 2007 and the 2014 season, you're not going to find anything special. And his career highlights are nothing crazy, and they're actually just very, very cryptic. So it's not really that great. And people want to talk about Tony Romo's successes, but they never want to talk about the bad times in his career. No one wants to talk about the Butterfinger incident that happened in 2006 in the playoff round against the Seahawks. Instead, they want to talk about how he got the Cowboys to the playoffs in 2014. People would rather talk about how he beat the Eagles in one playoff game when the Eagles weren't even that great that year, when they don't want to talk about when he lost to the Eagles 44-6 in the 2008 season when that game decided who was going to the playoffs. So I will leave it up to everyone else to decide. I will leave it up for any backlash, comments, or concerns. But if anyone has anything to say now to go against that, speak now or forever hold your peace. Exactly, ladies and gentlemen. I don't even care. We're just moving on to the next topic like that. And that is why I believe this media coverage of Tony Romo's retirement needs to stop. It's not important. But let's move on to hot topics. I got to chill out, and let's move on to our next. With that, let's move on to our hot topics. The MLB season has finally started, and with the beginning to every season to every sport, you have to obviously make way too early predictions. Taylor, let's start off with you and what you think. Who do you think is going to win the Cy Young's Best Pitcher of the Year award?
Well, when I look at basically right now the AL and NL, I look at one guy in the AL, and this is going to shock you, a relief pitcher, Andrew Miller, Cleveland Indians. He's been around the AL. You probably heard his name before, and it's a good thing you've heard his name. He does not have a remarkable career record. It's 44-41 in relief pitching, but you got to look at the bigger picture here. The Cleveland Indians are prone to stand out in the AL Central. I like him a lot. There's not too much pressure really right now in the AL at the Cy Young position. I think this is a year that it's a wide open field. And in the NL, I like the New York Mets pitcher, Noah Syndergaard. He's always in the picture every single year. A lot of people have their eyes on Zach Greinke, Clayton Kershaw. I look past that. I look at how nice Noah Syndergaard has been over the years. 23-16 career record, career ERA of 2.84. Last season he pitched around 56 games, had a 339.2 IP, gave up about 299 hits. There's a lot of very good stats. The bigger picture is the kid's nice. You've probably seen his flow too. It's outrageous. I think this is his year. The New York Mets, maybe not their year, but definitely Noah Syndergaard's year. He's their elite pitcher right now. He's their guy. But Mike, the real question is, what do you think?
Well, I'm going to start off with the AL just like you. I'm going to go out of Tampa Bay Devil Rays. They're no longer the Devil Rays; they're just a regular Rays now. I'm going Chris Archer. The man is a beast. He's won 7 innings. Yesterday against the Yankees, he's really good. His whip is what really impresses me. He has a 120 career whip. He's getting better. He's a competitor. He competes on the mound. He has a mean look on him. He throws the ball hard. He has some mean stuff. It's a shame the Tampa Bay Rays aren't good. He won't get enough recognition. But like as you mentioned earlier, the AL Cy Young race really isn't anything special. Justin Verlander's not Justin Verlander anymore. Maybe Rick Porcello. I mean, Corey Kluber is my second place finisher. But I think that's the only person I can take from Chris Archer, in my opinion. And now the NL, none of us mentioned Clayton Kershaw. Let's just take that in for a second.
I brought him up, but I didn't talk about him for a reason. What do you think, Mike?
Because Madison Bumgarner is here. And Madison Bumgarner is very nice. I like him. Dude hit 2 opening day home runs. I know that has nothing to do with Cy Young, but can we just mention that?
Yeah.
2 opening day home runs.
Is he currently leading? I didn't check up on the stats today.
He's tied with Chris Davis with the Athletics, actually, for leading in home runs. So, hey, we got a competition already. Home Run Derby 2017, Madison Bumgarner. But let's get to the point. This man is a monster. I like the whip. Walks, hits, inning, pitch. I mean, that shows you how many base runners you leave an inning, maybe. He has a 110 whip. That's good. That means on a good day you can maybe get a base runner, an inning against him. I mean, this dude's good. He's got stuff. He's got facial hair. He's got flow. He's got curveballs, fastball. He's got it all. And
swagger.
He's my NL Cy Young.
And with that, let's move on to the next one, MVPs. Taylor, who do you got for MVP this season?
I gotta show love. Hey, back home, go Sox. I got Mookie Betts winning the American League MVP. And before you all go, oh, Taylor, you biased Boston Red Sox fan. Mookie Betts, a.k.a. the future of the Red Sox outfield, a.k.a. the king of dance moves in Boston. There's a lot of nicknames. I like Mookie Betts a lot because right now it's the post-Poppy era. We talk about this often. You talk about young guys like Andrew Benintendi. You talk about Jackie Bradley Jr. You talk about Mookie Betts, Dustin Pedroia, if he can produce well. You talk about bringing in a guy like Mitch Moreland. There's so much of offensive young talent right now. There's so much to build. You got catcher, bit of a question mark, so it's not like there's really anyone who's going to overtake him on the Red Sox. And in the AL, there's sure as hell no one who I really see overtaking him besides Mike Trout. But I do like Mookie Betts this year, all because of the fact that the Red Sox are in a hell of a lot better position right now than the Los Angeles Angels. I think there's going to be a lot of opportunity for him to have another big year stand out. And then when I go to the NL, I got to go to my current home, Washington, D.C., I like Bryce Harper a lot. And the reason I like Bryce Harper is because at this point, Bryce Harper's career, he's in his, 5th, 6th year, around that right now. Mm-hmm. The man has proven to us that he is the Washington Nationals, the face of the Washington Nationals. I don't need stats to back it up right now to show you that Bryce Harper is a powerful man. He gets home runs. He gets on base. The Washington Nationals actually have a very good shot to win this division this year. When we look at power productivity right now in the NL, there's really no one I can see overtaking him. He already has 1 home run on the season. I like Bryce Harper for a very specific reason due to the fact that he stays consistent. He's young, and I think he's going to outplay a lot of these guys that seem to be getting older in the AL. But I would love to hear what you think about this, Mike.
I'm start off the AL like we always do, and I'm going Mike Trout. Hey, he's born 2 towns over from me. I plays high school a lot in a lot of sports, but it's beyond the point. But Mike Trout, he's my guy. He just jacked a home run against the A's last night. I mean, he's a 5-tool player. He's a traditional player, and I feel like he's a first ballot Hall of Famer, no doubt about it, top 5 player, bearing anything tragic. So I think why isn't he gonna win MVP? He's just tipping his prime right now. And his dude is sick. He's definitely going to hit 200 career home runs, reach it that milestone this year. And, hey, he already started off good opening day. He already has a 500 average, a home run, and 2 RBI. So I just feel like just pure talent-wise and just pure skill-wise. And really, if you look at the AL West, I mean, the Astros had a down year last year. And unless they can rebound, I mean, that division still is wide open. So, hey, if Mike Trout can just up his game and Albert Pujols can stop being the 37-year-old midlife crisis Albert Pujols, we all know and love the past 2 years, the Angels can actually do something. And shifting over to the NL, I like Chris Bryant. He was in my Take 5 yesterday. Chris Bryant's here to stay with the Cubs. Well, guess what? Chris Bryant's here to stay because this man, he's a beast. I mean, he made the final out in the World Series. I mean, that was an easy play. I can make that play, but he's just talented. He has energy. He's 25 years old. Pair with Anthony Rizzo, all those players. I feel like anybody on the Cubs can win MVP, but I feel like Chris Bryant is the best player, so that's why he will win MVP. And I feel like the Cubs they're going to pick up right where they left off. They had a really good game with the Cardinals the other night. But I feel like Chris Bryant is just pure talent-wise along with Mike Trout. I just feel like in baseball, the best player always wins MVP because the talent shows in baseball compared to other things. And MVP is just really who's the best player, and I feel like Chris Bryant and Mike Trout are the 2 best players, so that's why they're my 2 MVP picks.
That sounds very interesting, gentlemen. Now let's come down to the final predictions, probably the most important ones. Favorites in the playoffs, guys. You were both asked to bring 2 teams in, and a reason as to why you think those teams would be good. Taylor, let's start off with you.
Well, I'm going to start off in the NL. I'm going to switch up the flow real quick. It's hard to not, when you look at the NL in the big picture, it's hard to not have the Chicago Cubs right back where they left off last season based off the fact, and I'm going to break it down. Right now in the NL West, who's your winner in the NL West? It's pretty obvious right now. It's going to be the Los Angeles Dodgers or the San Francisco Giants. Look at the Los Angeles Dodgers. Are they a playoff team? No. Are the San Francisco Giants a playoff team? Yes. But can they beat the Chicago Cubs? No, and we saw that last year. All right, let's move on. NL Central. I actually think the Pirates will have a pretty big year. I actually have them winning. Not winning this division, but getting a wild card spot right behind the Chicago Cubs in this division. But they're not quite enough. The pitching's not quite there. The offense, Andrew McCutchen can't be your elite guy late in the playoffs. Andrew McCutchen's not a World Series hitter. He's great. He's fantastic. I love Andrew McCutchen, but he's not the answer. And honestly, the Cardinals aren't deep enough this year, in my opinion, although that pitching is quite nice. I could go down to the NL East, and I could say a lot about the NL East right now, but it's a big mess. The Nationals are going to win. But classic Washington sports, you do not. You're delusional if you're picking the Nationals beat the Cubs in the playoffs because it's not happening. So the bottom line is, when you break it down logically and you break it down statistically, right now the Chicago Cubs, with their offensive power, with their pitching, World Series easily. When I move over to the AL, post-Poppy era time, the Boston Red Sox are young. They're hungry, and they got a roster, man. They got Andrew Benintendi left field. Did I mention, by the way, I forgot to mention last skit, Mookie Betts is 24 years old. Just going to throw that out there. He's not going anywhere. We look at this pitching staff right now. Rick Porcello last season, a Cy Young Award winner, can bring that productivity. We look at the relief pitching right now. I really like Craig Kimbrell to have another big season. Matt Barnes is always a solid guy up there. And it's going to be interesting to see, though. Robbie Scott and Heath Hembree, 2 new guys, new faces of the Boston Red Sox. Can they produce? The question is, I think they can. It's all going to leave up to Craig Kimbrell and Rick Porcello, and I see them having reciprocal seasons of what they had last year. I see all that happening again. When I look at the AL, I don't see too many big threats this year. The AL East is the Sox's to lose. The AL Central is just what's going on. The AL West, I mean, hey, who knows? Probably going to be the Houston Astros this year. And are the Houston Astros going to outplay the Boston Red Sox offensively and defensively in the playoffs? No, because the Boston Red Sox have more power. They're a younger team. They have the offensive bats. They have Xander Bogaerts. They have Mookie. They have JBJ. Brock Holt's going to bring us all. Like I said, Mitch Moreland adds that little extra incentive on the bat. Blake Swihart needs some work, but he's a good offensive productivity to have at catcher. And like I said, to reiterate the point, they're young, and I like young teams in the AL this year. And I like the Boston Red Sox, my Boston Red Sox, to be in the World Series against the Chicago Cubs.
All right, well, just like you, I'm going to start in NL. I'm really not going to stay a lot on because you hit a lot of the points. I want to say the Cubs, they're just the best team. I mean, the Pirates are good, not good enough to beat them. The Cardinals and the Dodgers, I feel like, are only 2 teams that stand a chance. I mean, more so the Dodgers because they have Clayton Kershaw and a little bit more pitching, a little bit more bullpen than the Cardinals. But I just feel like the Cubs are just too much. They have it all, man. They have relief pitching. I feel like they are going to miss Aroldis Chapman. I mean, that would have been nice for them to have again this year for a World Series run. But I still feel like they're good enough to win NL. I mean, you just look at everything: hitting, pitching, fielding, all of it. They're great. So I'm going to shift over to AL. I'm going to spend a lot of time on this. The Cleveland Indians are going to go back to the World Series. So if it's right, I just had a rematch of the Indians and Cubs. Well, wow, that's not fun. But hey, it is fun because they're both good finally. So the Indians, I just love the Indians. Last year, I said it again. You know, they were missing a lot of players for the playoffs. Excuse me, they were missing Abraham Monty, Michael Bradley. I mean, they have Andrew Miller still. They have all these players. They're just a really good team. They just had a gutsy win against the Rangers in opening day. They're currently playing the Rangers right now. But they just have it all. They're not as quite as good as the Cubs, but I just feel like the AL Central, they can easily win that division. I mean, the Royals are supposed to be good, but they're not. The Tigers are falling off. And I just look at the whole AL, and I just really don't see anybody else besides the Red Sox, who the Indians just swept last year, and they actually have their full roster. So I think with all that given, I feel like we have an Indians Cub rematch in a World Series.
Wow. That is insane. I think it's going to be the Phillies-Yankees again. No, I'm just playing. No.
Go Phils. Hey, go Phils.
Cliff Lee's about to just come back and just in his prime. No. Okay. Let's move on to our next hot topics, the NBA prospects. We're going to talk about who we like the most and the sleepers we like the most. But let's take to the superstars right now. We got ourselves Lonzo Ball, Deontay Fox, Malik Monk. Taylor, who do you think out of these bigger names is really going to make an impact on the NBA?
Well, when I look at the NBA, I definitely don't look at Duke, and I can look at Kansas, but, I would talk a lot about Frank Mason, but I feel like I mentioned Frank Mason a lot on the show. I want to mention a new name, a name I don't really get to mention a lot, or mention a lot intentionally because I have him now, Inception Boom. Malik Monk, freshman, Kentucky. This kid's nice. Me and Mike were actually talking about this kid. He averages 19.8 points per game, 2.5 RPG. We saw what he did in the tournament. I think you take him out, I don't think Kentucky even gets that far. And frankly, I don't even think Kentucky's as good with Malik Monk. Yes, you can say they would be good because they have Deontay Fox. I think Malik Monk's better. I like the productivity this kid brings. He stays very consistent. He was plus 10 points every game in this tournament, including a 21-point game standout versus UCLA, which was probably, up until they played UNC, their toughest test. You could say that about Wichita State, arguably. He played 17 points against Arkansas. Well, look at his numbers. He's 3 and 6 right there at 3-point attempts versus UNC. But you look at him down the road, the kid does take a lot of shots, but he mostly produces, and that's what I like. Listen, I'd rather have a kid who's aggressive and takes a lot of shot and wants to take control into his hand at such a young age. Like we said, this is Kentucky, so he's a freshman. It's very typical that he's entering the draft and he's young. But we've seen young players in Kentucky and what they can do. And I guess that brings me to my next point. A guy I don't talk about a lot is Deontay Fox, and there's a reason I don't talk about him a lot. Is because I feel as if Deontay Fox really won't produce well into the NBA. A lot of people can think I'm crazy for that. But I don't think he brings enough defensively to the court. I definitely think a guy like Frank Mason brings a little bit more. I'd rather have Frank Mason than Deontay Fox. Just a personal opinion, not trying to offend you, all those Kentucky Wildcat fans who listen to our show every single week. But I think right now Malik Monk's my one big standout. Mike, there's a lot of big names. I want to get your opinion on all this.
Well, we all know about Lonzo Ball, and I'm just going to stay on a little bit on him. I really think Lonzo Ball I feel like he's a Rookie of the Year favorite next year if we're making odds. I mean, if we want to go that far ahead, I feel like he really does it all. He showed in UCLA, and he was averaging 14, 8 and 6. And he just controlled the pace of play, and I feel like if he lands on a team like the Lakers, which his daddy wants him to, and I feel like really can.
Makes sense.
Yeah, because I don't think the Lakers are losing their pick to the Sixers. There's no way in hell the NBA will let that happen. And I think you move D'Angelo to the 2. Jordan Clarkson come off the bench. I feel like Alonzo Ball coming into the Lakers, I feel like makes that team from a top 5 lottery pick team to I think maybe only top 15 lottery pick team until they, do a little bit more. So I think Lonzo Ball, makes the biggest impact coming out. But a player I really love, man, who really lost a lot of mojo, really. I mean, coming into the season, we're all talking about Dennis Smith Jr. because we're talking about Marquez Fultz, Lonzo Ball, and Dennis Smith Jr. as the 3-headed point guard dragon. That's going 1, 2, 3 in this year's draft. And really, with NC State, just quite frankly, for lack of a better word, just sucking this year. I mean, you really didn't hear about Dennis Smith, but Dennis Smith, I mean, this kid's an animal. I mean, he's a little guy. He's getting compared to Chris Paul. I mean, he averaged 18.6 rebounds. He averaged 5 assists. And he's really listed as 6'3", but if you watch him play, I mean, he's all but a 6'1", 6'1.5". So I mean, he's quick, he's athletic. I really like Dennis Smith Jr. to maybe land on a team like the Kings. I feel like you need some point guard help and to can dish the ball around. Really the athletic trio they have. Buddy Hield, Blake Cauley-Stein. So I feel like Dennis Smith Jr. is a name we sort of lost in translation in a way. We really lost him throughout the season, and we need to get him back because this man's a baller, and he's a good one.
Now we're going to talk about some of the sleepers that we thought were interesting. We got a couple of names like Josh Hart, Frank Mason. Taylor, to start off with you, what sleepers do you think can really make an impact in the NBA?
One guy I really, really actually love, it's exciting to talk about this, Josh Hart. And I don't think any other team should draft this kid other than the New Orleans Pelicans because like we said, where are the New Orleans Pelicans at right now? They have DeMarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis, 2 very good, productive big men offensively and defensively. But we talked a lot about Drew Holiday and his future and pending and whether he even comes back or not. They need a guard. Josh Hart fits this. He's a shooting guard. He's from Villanova. The kid's nice, like we said. He's only 22 years old. His height is 6'6". Wingspan's ridiculous, by the way. It's a 6'7.5 wingspan, 204 pounds. Kid's heavy. He's averaging 18.7 a game. I mean, that's great NBA numbers. Not too hot on the assist, but I do really like the rebound percentage right now. And I like how many rebounds he averages a game, around 7. That's huge in the NBA. He's a big man. He can get to the net. And he's a good guard. He can shoot. And I think if you're New Orleans, you can take him. And we talked a lot about Josh Hart. And listen, I get what happened with Villanova. I know they didn't live up to the expectations. Sorry about that, Philadelphia. But listen, I think Josh Hart, lands perfectly in New Orleans. I like him as a sleeper. One other kid I do like as a sleeper, we mentioned him earlier, Dylan Brooks. I think him going to the Boston Celtics makes a lot of sense. Let's not forget the Boston Celtics, who are fighting for an Eastern Conference final spot right now, have that number 1 overall pick. It'll be interesting to see what they do with that. And then they have a later first-round pick. But, Mike, I got to ask you, man, besides Josh Hart, you got to talk to me, man. What sleepers did you really see stand out here?
Grayson Allen. No, I'm just kidding. I'm going Jonathan Motley out of Baylor, power forward. He's big, physical, average 17 points, average 10 rebounds, And Baylor is, for most part of the team, they're a top 5 team for the whole year. They had the number 1 ranking for a little bit, then they lost to West Virginia and all that. So they're rotating around in the top 10. I just like Jonathan Motley. I was watching him as a junior, so he's well experienced, but he grew every year. He's developing a little bit of jump shot, but he's physical. He loves to rebound. That was the whole Baylor mantra this year and in years past. Rebound, and Jonathan Motley really led that rebounding mantra that Baylor was all about. They're a tough, physical inside team. To go along with that nice swag they got. So I really like Jonathan Motley to come in the second round, maybe to a team like I just mentioned about Dennis Smith Jr., to the Kings maybe. Or to the Sixers that have some, power forward depth since Jahlil Okafor is not good anymore and Nerlens Noel is, parted ways. So I really like Jonathan Motley. He's a nice physical, raw, guy you can develop who can really work for any team's second unit as a power forward and play defensively, get rebounds, and just really do the little things that are going to really help in the long run have a second-round pick like Jonathan Motley.
Well, that was definitely a lot to process. Guys, let's end off the show in a proper way. I want to hear you two guys just completely either destroy or support something. I'm expecting a lot from you guys today. I'm actually holding a very high bar, but it's because I love you guys so much. So let's move on to our Take 5. Mike, let's start off with you tonight. What are you trying to prove here, buddy?
My Take 5. 5 bold predictions about the upcoming NHL playoffs, because NHL playoff time is here and it's fun. I love NHL playoffs.
It's fun.
It's definitely fun.
It's definitely fun.
Yeah, it's fun. So my number 1, I'm saying the rookies are here and they're here to stay. No longer rookie Connor McDavid, but Connor McDavid and Austin Matthews coming in, with the Leafs who pretty much clinched a playoff spot already, and the Oilers who have clinched a playoff spot already. It looks like their first round matchup is going to be with the Sharks. But I really like this kid, Austin Matthews, man. American born out of Arizona. He was a Coyotes fan. How random is that? But I just love the way he plays with the whole Maple Leafs. He's fast, he's big, he's physical. He has 67 points. He's right there at 40. He's right there at 40 goals. He has 39 right now. So he just needs one more, but he's gonna get there. And just Connor McDavid leading the league in points. He's pushing him with a couple games left. He has 94 right now, but he could get 100 points. And I just feel like them going in, I just feel like the new style play, they're the new Crosbys. They're just got to duke it out, see which one's which. And I just feel like they're going to go in and the rookies are just going to take over. And that brings me to my number 2. The winner of this Montreal Canadiens and New York Rangers first-round series that's inevitably there will lose to the Maple Leafs in the next round, who will defeat the Ottawa Senators in the first round. Yes, I'm making a lot of predictions. I love predictions. But building on of Austin Matthews and his rookie prowess, how about his line mates, Mitch Marner and William Nylander? They're both at 60 points respectively. Mitch Marner has 18 goals and 42 assists. William Nylander's in the 20-goal range. I mean, they're just fast. I mean, that's a big thing through this Take 5 you're going to see is speed. Speed kills, especially in hockey and ice. You can slide on ice pretty fast, and these kids are good, man. They're fast, and even their goalie, Frederik Andersen, has a .919 save percentage, and they have the second-ranked power play, and usually the Maple Leafs have an awful penalty kill years past when they sucked. Well, guess what? They have the 8th-ranked penalty kill, so they can definitely beat the struggling We're not a struggling Rangers, but a Rangers with a struggling Henrik Lundqvist over the course of the year. It's been gradual. And I really don't think the Rangers or Habs can keep up with the Leafs, and I think that's going to be a big mantra in this playoffs is just who's faster than who, and I feel like the Leafs got a lot of speed to beat either the Habs or Rangers, whoever they play. My number 3, the Blackhawks will walk through the Western Conference with 3 losses or fewer. They're at 107 points right now. Let me just break this down for you. So right now they're playing either the Predators or the Flames in the first round. It's most likely going to be Predators because the Flames are on a roll. I'll get to the Flames later. But they're either playing the Minnesota Wild or St. Louis Blues in the second round. So they're going to beat the Predators. I think that can be a sweep. The Wild have been slumping off ever since I gave them a shout-out in my first ever Take 5. Thank you for proving me wrong, Minnesota, but that's not the point. I just feel like they've been playing good against Minnesota lately, that they can get through that with only one loss. Then, if my predictions, I did this whole thing in my head, calculated because I'm that smart of a guy, that they're either playing Calgary or the Oilers in Western Conference Finals, in my opinion. And I think the Blackhawks can definitely beat the Oilers because I said Connor McDavid. I don't think Connor McDavid is good enough to bring it to a Stanley Cup this early. And I don't think Calgary's good enough to make it to the Stanley Cup. So I just think the Blackhawks are just too good with Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, Corey Crawford experience. They've won the cups. They got 3 cups in the past 6 years. I mean, they have the cups. They have the cups, and they're gonna prove it. And I feel like just at 107 points, there's no way they're losing more than 3 games walking through this Western Conference. I just can't see it. They're just that good, and the Western Conference is just that bad outside of them because there's no LA Kings this year to take them to 7 games. There's no LA Kings. And my number 4. The beloved Pacific Division leader Anaheim Ducks will lose in the first round to Calgary Flames. So remember that speed thing I mentioned earlier? Yeah, well, I'm bringing it back because the Calgary Flames are fast, especially with his New Jersey native Johnny Gaudreau, my boy, 61 points, 18 goals, 43 assists. This dude's fast, man. I mean, hey, he's 5'9", but he's Marty St. Louis, on steroids. He's just really good. And paired with Matthew Tkachuk, Sean Moynihan, some really, Mark Giordano, some veteran presence, Brian Elliott, who was on fire this year. Really big question mark with the Flames is Brian Elliott or any of the goaltender they have in their system or on their roster good enough to be an NHL goaltender? Well, Brian Elliott really came back this year and was like, okay, I got to do something with the Flames, and he really has, and he's been on fire, and I feel like matching up against the Ducks, I just think the Ducks are too slow. Watching them play, my thing is outside of Andrew Cogliano and obviously your skill players, there's really no speed there. They don't have a lot of depth. I don't trust their defense there. And John Gibson is just too inconsistent at goalie for me. So I feel like the Flames will beat the Ducks as that is my first round upset. And number 5, the Blackhawks will beat the Washington Capitals in the Stanley Cup. So I did mention the Washington Capitals are in the Stanley Cup, and I think 2 reasons. One, you mentioned this earlier in another Take 5. This is the year, and for all those reasons, this is the year. Kevin Shattenkirk, Alex Ovechkin has to do some. But I feel like Braden Holtby, this is the year where Braden Holtby really says backpack. That one year where he played the Rangers, and they took him to these years, Braden Holtby said backpack. He's really saying backpack, and they're going to play the Blackhawks, but unfortunately, I feel like the Blackhawks will come out on top just because for the reasons I mentioned earlier, Patrick Kane, Jonathan Toews, I can go on and on, Duncan Keith. They're just a really good team. I just feel like the Blackhawks will beat the Washington Capitals in Chicago on Game 7.
Dearly beloved, we are gathered here today to commemorate in memory of March Madness and the college basketball season, and I would like to say 5 things in memorial of college basketball. Here are 5 reasons why college basketball is better than the NBA. Number 1, game speed, flat out better. They play an 82-game regular season with the potential for an additional 28 games in the postseason. This is compared to a 30 to 35-game schedule for any given college team. The length of the schedule means that the NBA must conserve players. We've seen this quite recently. We've gotten a big attitude about this, resting players. This means that they are not going 100% because they do need stamina, they need to conserve. College basketball is significantly less of a season, around the 30 range. They are giving it all out because you want to know what? They're fighting for a March Madness position. They're fighting for a tournament spot. Every game matters. Not every team makes it. And let's be real. For the most part, are they really giving it out the all when they're out there? No. When you watch the NBA, what do I see? I see a bunch of overpaid, rich, spoiled athletes who don't want to give it their all, who just want to abuse the fans for money. It's a whole marketing scheme to me, and I'm sick and tired of it. And that brings me to my next point. Number 2, the NBA is too much of a players' league. Pro basketball features millionaires allergic to defense playing a game on a court they have long outgrown, all with the knowledge that they can get their coach fired with just one single soundbite. If I wanted to watch Degrassi, I could go on Nickelodeon and watch an episode of Degrassi. I'm done with the whole drama on the LeBron lost by 5 points to the Milwaukee Bucks, and we got to get better, man. We got to get better. All this crap and all this controversy that goes back and forth with coaches back and forth. You want to know what happens in college basketball if a player ever speaks up to a coach? He gets benched. And you want to know what? Do you ever see issues happening? It happens, but very rarely you never see issues where college basketball players try to call out one of their coaches intentionally in order to get him fired, in order to cause drama. You have buttloads of money. Let the man be. He's doing what he can do. And by the way, that brings me to my third point. Besides the fact that it's boring and the game speed sucks and the players are overspoiled, both the regular season and postseason matter in college basketball. It's always going to come down to the Cavs, Warriors, Spurs, and one other team. Let's be real here. It's probably going to be the Boston Celtics this year, but are the Boston Celtics going to win it? No. Okay, want to know why? Because the Cleveland Cavaliers are there and it's still LeBron James. No matter what seed you get most of the time, you can pretty much predict the playoff winner. I can tell you right now who's going to be back in it. NBA games are quickly forgotten unless Kobe or Steph or Jordan drops 81 points. I mean, when was the last time you had a memorable NBA game that was not late in the postseason? Right, it doesn't happen. College basketball games are extremely memorable. There are buzzer beaters. Are there rushing courts in the NBA? I don't think so. There are a lot of tradition that goes into college basketball. There are a lot of values. Like I said, people would sell their firstborn baby, put their whole month's rent on the line to go watch UNC in the Final Four or to see a game at the Carrier Dome or Assembly Hall before they die. I mean, college basketball altogether, it just has everything. And that brings me to the next point for March Madness, period. That's the point right there. Just March Madness, period. The NCAA tournament is the most exciting and one of the most highly viewed events in America. People from all around gather to watch this event, regardless of whether they like basketball or not. Tournament challenges. People don't watch a day of college basketball in their life. They're sending in brackets. They're ordering them win money. It brings people together. Meanwhile, the opening days of the NCAA tournament are a national holiday. Upsets completely rare in the NBA, common sometimes. Unpredictably is the order 32 games in 2 days, 48 games in 4. It's entirely a crapshoot, which is why a person who knows the least about college basketball most likely is going to win the tournament challenge. Isn't that quite frustrating? Mike and I know about that.
Yeah, it's frustrating.
Oh, and by the way, college basketball, you can turn on a game Saturday night, Duke, Syracuse, sellout. Fans are screaming. Atmosphere is unbelievable. I turn on the game on Saturday night. I can catch a good old Utah Jazz, Golden State Warriors game. Utah Jazz, NBA, man. It's fantastic. No, it's not. And you want to know why? Because the atmosphere in college basketball is uncomparably better than the NBA, and that is number 5. Most college basketball teams play in cathedrals. I'm talking Cameron Indoor, Assembly Hall, Fog Allen Fieldhouse, Pauley Pavilion, the Liacouras Center. Jokes are a big thing today. I don't know one person who has seen a game at BMO Harris Bradley Center in Milwaukee on their bucket list. I don't know one person who has going to see a Warriors game at Oracle Arena on their bucket list. I sure as heck don't have seeing a Sixers game at Wells Fargo on my bucket list. I have maybe Madison Square Garden, the Garden in Boston, which I've been to, and Staples Center on my bucket list. There are countless arenas on lists that people would kill, would die. Once again, probably sell their kid because it's college sports. It's sports. Hey, what do you know? Rivalries in the NBA are fleeting. College basketball rivalries stay no matter what happens. We see games. We see Duke, Syracuse. We see Duke, UNC, UVA Tech, Michigan, Ohio State. We see all these rivalries every single year, regardless of what they're doing. These games are jam-packed. They're exciting. They're down to the last finish, sometimes buzzer beaters. The feeling of playing your rival school on your home court on a game-winning 3 and rushing that court, there's nothing comparable. The crowd noise and overall atmosphere of the game, it's just hard to compete. You can't compete NBA. You can't keep up. College basketball is awesome. College basketball, be mine.
Well, that was great, Taylor. Good job, you guys. I'm really excited, actually. This is going to help me out for my Take 5 next week, why the AFL is the best football ever, arena football.
Hey, I love the AFL.
Just kidding.
Go Philadelphia Soul, 2 times AFL champions.
So with that, we've wrapped everything up. Thank you for joining us again on The First Line. Be sure to join us again next week. We're going to talk about the AFC East, among other things. My name is Massimo Marciano, and here tonight with my good friends Mike Zingroni and Taylor Snyder. We wish you guys a good night. Any closing thoughts, gentlemen?
We picked UNC to win our tournament bracket, and guess what? We're right. Ha ha.
Yeah, well, so we're right then. Yeah, I'm just kidding. Go Sox, go Caps, keep up the good work.
Go everything Philly, man.
This is the year. Hey, Red Sox, 1-0, World Series. Let's do it.
All right, and with that, please be sure to follow us on Twitter at TFL Sports Talk. Please join us again next time. We're looking forward to it. Thank you very much.